And we do have breaking news to bring you. President Biden has released an executive order now targeting Jewish settlers in the West Bank who've been attacking Palestinians in the occupied territory.
The Biden administration is imposing sanctions on individuals who have engaged in such violence. The president has faced criticism for being too deferential to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in his war with Hamas. Critics say Israel's ongoing military campaign is a disproportionate response to the October 7th attacks. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now from outside of the White House there. So, Ed, what more can you tell us about this executive order and is this actually a shift for the Biden administration?
Not necessarily a shift for the Biden administration, but if anything, a shift back to what had been about 40, almost 50 years of general U.S. policy when it comes to these kinds of settlements. This executive order out this hour, in essence, clarifies U.S. policy and allows the United States to target anyone in the West Bank, be they Jewish settlers, Palestinians, or other non-Americans who may end up causing violence or the displacement of people there in the West Bank. And like I said, reaffirms roughly 40 years of U.S. policy that is in line with international law that considers these settlements to be illegal, given how the West Bank was established and for whom originally back in the day. It puts the Biden administration, though, at odds with Benjamin Netanyahu's conservative coalition government there in Israel. There are a handful of cabinet ministers, in fact, who are West Bank settlers, and his government has seen them as sacrosanct to the future of Israel and has no issue with them being there, have been quite supportive of them. But the general consensus of those that support the idea of a two-state solution is you can't have almost 700,000 settlers living in the West Bank that way if you're ever going to have a two-state solution that involves the West Bank, Gaza, and Israel. So, in essence, a way to demonstrate some distance between the Biden administration and the current Israeli government at a time of international and domestic political calls for some separation, if not more criticism, of the Israeli government and its continued war against Hamas, which, of course, has resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of civilians.
And meanwhile, Ed, we know the president is heading to what the White House is describing as a political event over in Detroit with the United Auto Workers. What can you tell us about that? I understand it's meant to be a bit more informal as well.
Yes, this is an official re-election campaign event, a visit to the key swing state of Michigan and its 15 electoral votes, where polls show the current president trailing the former president in the single digits. That is not the way it went in 2020. It is, however, how it went in 2016 when Donald Trump narrowly prevailed in the state. Both of them understand organized labor is key to victory in the Wolverine state, so they've both been wooing organized labor, union workers. The president has received the endorsement of the United Auto Workers in part for standing with them on the picket line last year as they took on the big three automakers. But just yesterday here in Washington, former President Donald Trump met with leaders of the Teamsters Union, which did not announce an endorsement of him, is not expected to endorse him, but gave him the meeting regardless, as Trump continues to reach out to union workers in Michigan and across the country, arguing he's better for them. The Biden-Harris election campaign would turn around and say, not so fast. This is a guy who used to call them dues-sucking workers who don't necessarily need to be protected by unions. He said he prefers to work with non-union construction firms when he was building out his real estate empire in Florida. All those kinds of rhetorical things the Biden campaign will throw back at Trump, even as he tries to suggest he's a little more pro-worker.
All right, O'Keefe at the White House. Thank you very much.